me give you a little bit of background about Joseph. First of all, you ever been in a pit in your life? You ever had a spot in your life where you're like, wow, this is horrible. I feel like I'm in a pit and I just can't get out. The walls are surrounding me. It's dark. It's confusing. And it's lousy. It's coming in on me. It's caving in on me. Truth be told, most instances, and there's the quote I found that says that if you could kick the person responsible for most of your troubles in the backside, you wouldn't be able to sit down for 2 weeks. We call a lot of our own problems on ourselves because it's this hummingbird buzzard mentality. We go looking for rotten flesh instead of looking for the blossoms. So we call a lot of that upon ourselves. But let's talk about Joseph for a minute. What did Joseph go through? It says his brothers. Now, first of all, Joseph was not a favorite. Okay, he's got 11 brothers. And his brothers didn't like him because Joseph had this dream that basically said, one day you're going to bow down to me. And so they weren't very happy with Joseph. And then Dad favors Joseph. He likes Joseph so much he gives him this multicolored coat, which back then was very rare, very expensive. He says, I'm gonna glorify you with this multicolored coat. Here, put this on. Now you're my favorite son, and you know what? I want you to go check on your 11 brothers. So not only are you my favorite son, and I haven't made that any kind of big secret, I'm going to have you now check up on your brothers. So he sends him to check up on his brothers, and his brothers see him coming and they say, oh, look, here comes the dreamer. The guy who says that we're going to bow down to him. I've got an idea. Let's kill him. Let's kill him and then we'll blame it on a wild animal. Say a wild animal killed him. Well, luckily, what had happened was one of the brothers says, well, let's not kill him. You know what we could do? If we kill him, it's not going to get us anything. We don't get anything out of that other than the fact that he's out of our hair. What we could do is we could sell him and we could make some money off of him. So first thing they do, they throw him in this pit to hold him there while they're thinking about it. Now your story is going to call it a cistern, a big hole in the ground. And we've all been there. We've all felt that in our lives. We've all been in that pit. Now, life circumstances, I mean, they come at us. No matter how wealthy you are, how poor you are, no matter what the circumstances are, we all have those things that hit us. Maybe it's your relationship that's in the pits right now. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your job that's in the pits right now. Maybe you're going, you know what? I can't put my finger on it, but my life is just in the pits right now. Did you know how much fog that covers? If you took fog, a dense fog that covered 7 city blocks to obscure the sight, 7 city blocks 100 feet high, if you took fog, enough fog to obscure their sight, you know how much water that is? That amounts to 1 glass of water. 1 glass of water divided into 60 million droplets can obscure our sight. So maybe you can't go, well, my life it's because of this one thing. Maybe it's everything that you're feeling. But we know what a pit's like. We know what that feels like. But then his brothers, see in the story, Joseph's brothers, they pull him out of the pit. So I'm sure Joseph was thinking, whew, I was scared there for a minute. But then they sell him as a slave for 20 shekels, which is really cheap. And they sell him into slavery. And we've been on that wagon too, right? We've been where my life, everything's so bad, and we see this ray of hope and we go, oh, things are going to be good now, and then only to be stabbed in the back. Stabbed in the back either by circumstances or by another person, by maybe your brothers. So it's not a big stretch for us to imagine that, to imagine what he's going through. He was sold into slavery. And then it says they took him to Egypt. They took him to a land where he wasn't familiar with it. They took him to a place where he didn't know where it was. It was confusion. It was a land of confusion. And he says, things are broken. It's not supposed to be this way. I can imagine Joseph thinking, it's not supposed to be this way. I've got every reason in the world to just be depressed and upset with God and mad. But it's at this point that he gets sold to Potiphar. It's at this point that he takes care of Potiphar's entire household. That he shows his life ethic. That he steps forward and says, no, I'm not going to focus on the dead things. I'm going to focus on the beautiful blossoms. And he takes care of that household. And he does it beautifully. Until. And there's always an until. Until Potiphar's wife looks at Joseph and she thinks, he looks pretty nice. So the Bible says, Potiphar's wife, now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. It came about after these events that his master's wife looked with desire at Joseph, and she said, lie with me. Now, I need to clarify here that in the biblical text, when she says lie with me, what she means is, lie with me. That's the Hebrew. She's seducing him. She's trying to pull him into this web of just sin. But Joseph says, no, I'm not going to do that. I won't fall for that. And she continues. She's persistent. She keeps at it. She's like, lie with me, Joseph. Lie with me. And Joseph made sure, I'm not going to be alone with her because of this. And one day, she finds him and catches him alone in the house. And she says, lie with me. And he says, no. And he goes to run. And she grabs his coat. He runs out the door. And she's standing there holding his coat. And so what does she do? She cries foul. Oh, he tried to lie with me. Look, I got proof. And then when Potiphar shows up, she tells him, hey, that slave that you bought, he's trying to have his way with me. Look, I got his coat to prove it. And so Potiphar, who has trusted him with everything, who's taken care of all of his household, blessed his household because the Lord was with him, he throws him in jail. Now we think, oh, okay, now his life is horrible. He's been betrayed by his brothers, almost killed, sold into slavery, lied upon, thrown into jail, and this is when he works for the jailer. Shows his life ethic. And the jailer's like, this is a prisoner, but wow, he is so good at this. He's got such a great attitude. I'm going to put him in charge. I'm going to put him in charge of everything that's in here. You know, we have these seductions that come at us in life. We have these things that try to seduce us, and sometimes it's a person, but more often than not, it's something else. And it's not, the dangerous ones are not the ones that pop up and say, hey, listen, I'm seducing you. The dangerous ones are not the ones like the drinking and the drugs and the debauchery. Those are things that we see, we know, they've been defined. These things are trying to seduce you. The things that are more seductive, they're more subtle. The subtle things that say, hey, just be comfortable. It's all right. Just be comfortable. You know what? It's just be content with the status quo. That's nice. That sounds good. Let me seduce you into that. The status quo. Let me seduce you into acceptance. Because that's what's important. So long as the people around you accept you, you're not making any waves. But at what cost? What cost are we willing to give in to those seductions? You know, we coming up with tax time, the cry of Potiphar's wife to Joseph would be a very relevant thing to be weary of. Are leery of. Lie with me. We can lie about our taxes. People come to lie with me and we'll say this and we'll get a tax break. Lie with me and we'll falsify our taxes. Seduction doesn't stop. Just as Potiphar's wife was persistent, seduction does not stop. Okay, and this is one of the things why this word is so important, because I promise you every single day of your life you will be seduced. The enemy's out there, and he will, in one way or another, attack you and seduce you every day of your life. We had a poster at the police department that says that every day that we don't work out, the enemy does. The bad guy does. Okay, it's the same thing in the church. Every day that we don't work out, the bad guy's doing it. They're doing it through the media, through your friends, through the world. You need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of that seduction. So what is it that we're supposed to do? How is it that some people choose bitterness? How is this life ethic? Where does it fall upon? Because we've already said all of us have these issues. All of us have these concerns. All of us have ups and downs. We have good things in life. We have bad things in life. And so it can't be our circumstances, because you see people around you who respond to circumstances differently. It can't be our circumstances that decide it. Some of us just want to be bitter. Or maybe we don't know how to be different. A man was traveling through the countryside, and he stopped at this little general store, and he's walking in, and there's an old hound dog sitting at the front of the general store, and it's just howling and howling and howling. Now, keep in mind, this is a beautiful sight, beautiful day, and the dog's just howling. And the visitor asked the owner, he said, "Why is your dog howling?" He said, "Oh, he's sitting on a thorn bush." He said, "Well, why didn't he move?" "He'd rather holler." I think we all know people who would rather holler. We all know people who'd rather sit on the thorn bush and holler as opposed to get up and move. So what's the difference when we're talking about Joseph? What made the difference in his life about his attitude and his behavior towards life? Because that's what we're talking about. Attitude and behavior towards life. It's his faith. His faith defines his attitude and behavior. I've seen these studies and these modern, where they're trying to decide if attitude defines behavior, but behavior defines attitude. It's neither. It's your faith that defines your attitude and your behavior. We need to know that God is there, and we need to know that God is in control. That's simple. God's there, and God is in control. 3 times in chapter 39, when his brothers are selling him into slavery, into Egypt, the Bible tells us that the Lord was with him. The Lord was with Joseph. 3 times it said it. The Lord was with him. And we go, "Oh, that's great. The Lord's with him. He's not with me." Old Testament says the Lord was with him. Look in the New Testament book of Hebrews. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. God will not leave you. God will not forsake you. God is with you.